listeners, welcome back to Off, Over 50 and Fired. Now what with Linda
and Shelley. Last time we talked about how to network and effectively utilize recruiters and outplacement services. Do you remember that, Linda?
I absolutely do, to really help people along their journey and to find those opportunities. So, hey, this is our final episode for season 1. I'm ready to take a break. How about you, Shelley?
You know, Lynn, I'm exhausted. I think it's a good time to take a break, but I've really enjoyed it. Even though we spent a lot of long nights together and we've had a lot of outtakes, it's been a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, but I'm definitely ready for a break.
I am too. It's been crazy how busy you can get and how your day can just get so filled. And you had this list of things to do.
And Linda, how much have you gotten done?
Almost nothing. So I'm hoping that with the summer off that I can tick off some of those items.
That's good. You got to get there. You're right. There's no time for anything. Absolutely. But Linda, you know, before we begin, right, I really want to make sure that we do know I've got a special wine for a special podcast. It's called a Freemark Abbey. It's a Cabernet from Napa Valley.
That's a great choice. I really love that vineyard. So here,
cheers.
So since it's our last episode, we're going to actually be doing a review of the first 6 months of our podcast and what we've learned and kind of celebrate our last 21 episodes and give a glimpse into what's going to be in store for season 2.
Right? So it's like a little bit of a roll back.
Yes.
And a spring forward, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's been an amazing journey. I just can't believe, you know, the journey we've been on and the transformation for both of us.
It's been incredible. You know, I'm trying to go back to remember when we first started recording our experiences back to the first podcast and how we felt back then and what a tremendous transformation that's happened over the last 6 months for us.
Yeah, Linda, it's been like night and day, right?
Absolutely. So why don't we roll the tape and listen back to 6 months ago. So how did you feel?
Shitty. I felt bad. I was a little bit surprised, not completely surprised, but I really felt like I had made a lot of significant contributions, and it was just, you know, kind of shocking to me to hear that, and wasn't quite sure. I knew I'd be okay, but I needed to take it all in and just try to start absorbing it.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I was a bit shocked because it didn't jive with our culture.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to have a company that we work for which has a big, strong caring component to it. But in this case, that's the thing that I think shocked me the most is I knew it might come. I knew it might be significant, but I just didn't think it really would happen. You know what, Shelley? Now that I hear that, I have to say that I'm actually glad that it happened. I feel like I'm in a completely different place now and that I actually have more options available to me that I didn't have before. I really didn't know what was out there.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it did give you the time to step back and think about it. But it's really scary from a financial perspective, right, Lynn? I mean, you know, you don't have money coming in. I mean, you might get a severance, but once your severance runs out, what do you do? But it does still, to your point, give you that opportunity to really start thinking outside the box and get a little creative.
Absolutely. And the other thing is how codependent we were on the company. I didn't realize that until we started going through this whole process of separation. And it was amazing to me where we are now, how much more independent we are as we look forward to new opportunities.
Yeah, I really like the fact that we're no longer tethered to the company.
So let's listen back as to how we felt about that. The other thing that we both realized right away after everything settled in was that we were completely and utterly electronic dependent on our company. We had no personal laptops or computers at home at all.
Mm-hmm. Right. We had nothing. So it was like, how were we going to communicate with the outside world if everything was going to be turned in? And, you know, so one of the things we needed to do, and we actually realized this within like 24 to 48 hours, that, oh my God, we need stuff.
I was surprised at how much it defines me, how much it was a part of my life. And I think it was difficult at first because I was losing like a big chunk
of your identity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think we both agree that, you know what, our jobs defined us. It wasn't the only thing, but it gave us a lot of pleasure. We really felt like, we were both very passionate about our jobs. We loved doing what we were doing. We felt like we were making significant contributions, and that no longer existed. So it's like, how do you deal with, that too, that codependency and that feeling of so much self-worth that you got from your job, So that's something that we're coming to terms with now too, but that's part of the whole codependency process, right? Everything that's wrapped up. So it's not just technology that makes you codependent, right? Whether it's a laptop or a phone, but it's also how it might have defined you because you gave so much time.
Shelley, I feel so much more independent now, and I really do feel that I'm the master of my own destiny.
Yeah, and to your point, Linda, it's not even being just tethered because of the things that, we've got, laptops and phones and stuff, but also how important the jobs were. At least for me, it was really about how the job defined me, and that it was my job. I was part of the job, and now it's the other way around. The job is part of me, and I love that. I love the fact that I've been able to turn that around and think about myself and my job differently.
Absolutely. I've kind of realized how much more of the world there is around me besides my job. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true. And the other thing is how we really took a negative experience and turned it into such a positive experience.
Yeah, we went from negative Nancy's to happy Harry's, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it was really cool, the transformation.
Right, and the other thing is how we've reconnected back with past colleagues and really started a dialogue with our listeners.
Yeah, so, we brought back some folks. We brought back Susie, and we brought back Betsy.
And Scotty and Prem also, and we had great conversations. And we started that whole new segment called One-Offs.
Right, because people really get sick of listening to just you and me, Linda. It's good to have some other expertise come in, right?
Absolutely. So Susie was our first one-off segment guest, and she shared about the personal casita. So let's play it back.
So when I really thought about what my new approach needed to be, I reflected back on what it was like at work. Like, how did I get things done? How did I manage my time? I certainly got projects done when I was at work. So what was different about that environment versus being at home? And I realized there were two key aspects of the way I worked that I liked. One was having projects with strong plans, deadlines, and tangible results. And the other was this idea of the casita. At the organization where we worked, there was a long-standing practice of having a goal alignment session in each department each year. And that session would ladder up to this one-page document, which we all called a casita, which was like a one-page visual representation of a strategic plan. Casita literally means little house in Spanish. And it's a wonderful visual to represent a strategic plan because you've got a roof with a sort of a vision statement. You've got the structure, that's your key strategies. And this is all held up by pillars, which contain the actual areas of focus and specific activities, which are going to hold up that strategy and mission. So I kind of had that visual in mind when I thought about, okay, how am I going to better approach what I'm doing and make sure I'm spending my time on the most important things, and also connect back, as Linda said, to what's really important. And as Shelley said, we can't really separate personal and professional anymore. So let me really think about what's important, where do I want to focus my efforts, and what does that mean about how I spend my time and structure my activities.
And Betsy also did a great job of giving advice on how to do a self-assessment.
So let's hear from Betsy.
I needed to figure out what I wanted to do and how to approach this. And so I did take a different course of action than you two. I mean, not that you didn't assess things in your life, but I really felt I needed to almost go back to ground zero of what do I need in a job? What do I need in my life? So if you have the luxury, of any time to kind of do an assessment of yourself and just kind of almost figure out some of the things what were the things that made you happy in the job? What are the areas that you really like? Where are the areas that you excel? Obviously, everybody has areas where they can improve upon, but I'd really focus on the areas, for me personally, look at the areas where you're strong to be able to kind of all of a sudden build that persona of who you are that you're going to then go out and market.
And then, Shelley, we had Susie come back again, and she really helped us with the whole area of resumes, because that's really the foundation to building your brand, right? Remember that long series that we had on branding?
The never-ending series?
Never-ending series.
How many episodes?
We had 8 episodes on branding. It was so critical for how you present yourself to the world.
Right.
So let's play what Susie had to say about resumes.
So when I left the organization and knew I was going to need a resume, the good news was I'd been updating my resume the whole time I was with the organization, which was more than 25 years.
See, I think that's terrific, and that's great advice, because for me, I actually had to spend a couple of days of going and digging through my files to find the dates and the times of when I transitioned to each role and what I actually did. And it actually did take me quite a bit of time to find that information to be as accurate as I possibly could. So maybe on an annual basis, go back, pick up that resume and dust it off and get it updated.
Yeah, no, and I'm actually pleasantly surprised that it only took you a few days, because that can be really hard to do, especially when a number of years have passed. And I think for me, it was when I changed jobs. I would make sure to reflect my new responsibilities in my resume, but also if I was taking on a new responsibility, even in an existing job, that I wanted to make sure to kind of remember and track accomplishments, results. Those are the kinds of things that are hard to recreate after the fact.
And Linda, let's not forget about Joey B.
Who can forget Joey B?
You know, he gave us some really rich guidance on branding, and it really helped us mold and create our key principles of branding.
So let's remind everyone about those 5 key principles. So number 1, don't do this by yourself.
Don't be a shut-in.
Number 2, first impressions are everything.
Don't be Debbie Downer or Negative Nancy.
3, self-assessment is foundational to building your brand.
Know who you are and what you want.
Number 4, branding. What is unique and memorable about you?
You want to stick in their minds.
And number 5, networking is not an activity, but a capability.
So practice, practice, practice.
So for me, Shelley, I really like the episode that featured stories from our listeners about how they found out about getting let go and also their final days at work. And one of my favorite stories was Janet.
Yeah, I love Janet's story because it ended with a bottle of wine.
So let's hear that story.
Janet's story about hearing the news and also the aftermath. And here's what Janet wrote into us. She said, Shelley and Linda, I wanted to say that I truly enjoy your weekly Off Now What podcasts. I have a similar story. My position was eliminated at the end of last year due to financial issues from the company. I received the call while I was on vacation. I can't freaking believe that.
Yeah, it's tough when you're on vacation. You're not expecting something like that at all.
I know, it's like the last thing you want to hear, right? So while the 2 individuals were explaining why my position was being eliminated after 15 years of service, all I could think of was over and over again, I'm over 50. Who is going to hire someone my age? My God, I have to start all over again. Where do I start?
So she continues to say, how do I update my resume? That hasn't been updated in 15 years. Mine was 20 years. Remember that, Shelley?
Yeah, thank God mine was only 6.
All these questions and more were popping out of my mind when I was listening to these 2 individuals telling me that I no longer had a job. Janet goes on. I worked very hard for the departments. I went above and beyond for them. I considered myself a very hardworking and diligent individual. I've always received compliments on my work performances. Now they're telling me that my services were no longer needed. So we're hoping, as Janet goes through, that our podcasts are helping people like Janet and others to answer those questions and those concerns. Shelley, what else did Janet have to say?
She said that, after the phone call, she said, I called my husband. I told him that I lost my job. In a very low